Electricast. Imagine what's possible when learning doesn't get in the way of life. At Capella University, our game-changing FlexPath learning format lets you set your own deadlines so you can learn at a time and pace that works for you. It's an education you can tailor to your schedule. That means you don't have to put your life on hold to pursue your professional goals. Instead, enjoy learning your way and earn your degree without missing a beat. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.
Since you're new to H&R Block, we'll look at your returns from the last 3 years for any money your last guy might have missed for free.
I could get money back from last year?
You could. We'll find any mistakes.
Could have really used that 2 years ago when I dated that mistake for 5 months.
Don't leave money on the table. Switch to H&R Block and get a free Second Look review. Second Look is included at no additional cost with the purchase of tax preparation. Results vary. All tax situations are different. Fees apply if you have us file an amended return.
Welcome to Her Extraordinary Life by Design, where we celebrate women who are shaping their lives one extraordinary day at a time. I'm your host, Leslie Gaudet, self-care coach for women who are ready to make self-care a priority to support them in life and business. Every week, I'll be speaking with inspiring women from various walks of life who will share their personal journeys and will discover how they have fearlessly carved their own paths as business owners, passionately pursuing their dreams and creating a meaningful impact on their communities. So let's get started. Hello and welcome to our Extraordinary Life by Design podcast. I'm your host, Leslie Gaudet, and today we're talking with Catherine Collins. Catherine is a nationally recognized entrepreneur and author of the book, Mom's Got Money, a millennial mom's guide to managing money like a boss. Over the past decade, her writing and expertise have been featured in dozens of media outlets, including Good Morning America, Yahoo Finance, Forbes, U.S. News and World Report, Real Simple, The Huffington Post, Kiplinger, Investopedia, Business Insider, and many more. She recently co-founded a personal development company called 5 Year You and launched a podcast by the same name. The ultimate goal of 5 Year You is to help 1 million people become their best selves in 5 years. I love that, Catherine, so very much, and I'm excited to speak with you today. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Well, we're recently connected and I am so excited. I'm going to be talking about how we met, but I am really excited. We're in season 3 of my podcast, which is hard to believe because when I first started floating the idea of a podcast, I was saying yes to that I wanted it, but I didn't know if it fit into my life. And what really helped me decide was I absolutely 100% love to speak with women, to interview and learn about them, hear their stories of empowerment. And I thought, what a better way to showcase my guests than to have a podcast where it's all about my guests and what they do, how they're making that impact on the world around them. And I'm really excited because I met you through Farnoosh Torabi's So Money community, where she posted your podcast episode, which I was so happy to be able to listen to. And that's from there. That was how we got connected. I was really excited to see how I could possibly have you on my show. And here we are, which is amazing to me. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I feel like we connected right away. Like when we did our intro call, we both had very similar goals. We both had a passion for helping women specifically. And it was like an instant click for me, instant yes. So I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. And like I said, I knew I wanted you for my financial empowerment series, which is for this month of February, and you're kicking off the series. So with that being said, I want to talk about what you do. After more than a decade as a financial writer, you co-founded a personal development company and podcast, 5 Year You, which I've mentioned. What inspired you to take this new direction, and how do you envision helping 1 million people become their best selves within a 5-year period?
Yeah, I love that question. You know, like so many people, I spent some time dreaming during the pandemic. I was writing my book, and I have a long-term business partner, Andrew Dewar, and a lot of our, financial websites were suffering during the pandemic, and we've done a ton of different projects together. And just because we could and because it was fun, we were like, if we could do any business in the world, and we knew it wouldn't fail, and we had unlimited funds for marketing, let's just pull out all the barriers. What would we do? And we basically arrived that we are both personal development junkies. Like for all 7 years that we have worked together, we're always reading, personal development books. We're always trying to like hack things, better things, be self-aware, work on our emotions. And we use that. I mean, it was almost like a hobby and something we used to improve my writing business, our personal finance websites, all these things. But we were like, we have done so much work over the last few years. We really want to help other people do it. We help other people with their money, right? Through articles and podcasts and things like that. But what if we help people just like generally be more satisfied with their lives, work on their passions, identify what their purpose is and what's important to them? And so we came up with the idea of 5-Year You, acknowledging that in a world of overnight successes and, take this quick class and make 10 grand a month, acknowledging that, real improvement takes time. And while it might not happen, in 1 year, it's not going to take a decade. And so that's how we came up with the idea of 5-Year You. And we're helping people through the podcast, of course, content on social media, and also purpose coaching, helping people identify what their actual real purpose is, why they're here on the earth.
Yeah, I love that. And one of the things I love what you said was that there is so much marketing out there of quick fixes or, get rich quick or do this and you'll have that. And we tend to forget that some of those, the reason why it works for some people is because of where they're at in their journey. We forget like we're not all at the same place at the same time, right?
Totally
and
true.
So right. And so when I see those posts out there or the ads out there about do this and you're going to have this, that's not necessarily going to be true for everybody if you're not in the right place at the right time of your journey. And I learned that the hard way because I kept saying yes, like way back when I first started coaching back in December of 2018. In the first 2 years of coaching, I was like all over the map saying yes to this and yes to that. And like, this is the quick fix and not getting coached really as much as I could, like not really taking that leap and getting someone to coach me the right way, but just saying, I can do that. I'm just going to go online and search for this. And, taking pocket classes, like pocket master classes or pocket programs, like little mini things, but not getting that real full experience. So I love how you talked about that because so many people are feeling burdened by pressures, like expectations from society. Social media is, it's in our face. So we have access to something that a lot of us didn't have access to. Like what? Facebook's only been around since 2007. So when you think about it, 2007 to 2024, there's not a lot of time that's gone in there, but that span of time, that's when everything changed and shifted for everybody, and especially in the online world. So people have so many expectations, and a lot of them are even self-imposed because they're thinking, well, look at so-and-so or look at that person, and I do the same thing as them. So why are they successful? Not realizing you're in a specific journey. That's yours. And it doesn't necessarily mean where you're at matches where they're at. And that's why maybe what they're doing, it really matches. And so I want to know from your journey and the work you're doing at 5-Year You, can you share some practical strategies for breaking free from these external pressures, create a fulfilling, authentic life?
I love that. Again, you and I are very aligned in like our belief systems and how we help people because we talk a lot about expectations, and we have a framework called the layers of life. And it is, if you have to think about it like a target ring with 5 rings around it. And we teach people to live from the inside out. That is from the innermost part of your soul, your spirit, whatever you believe, the essence of who you truly are and what your preferences really are. And then it goes all the way to the outer ring being accolades, your material possessions, your title at work, and all of those things. So many people live from the outside in. They make decisions based on what society tells them, what their parents hope for them, the messages that they've received from the media on what it takes to be a successful person, all the while placing their own like true desires of what they really think kind of gets buried underneath. So the very first thing that we do is we take people, we sort of reintroduce them to the person that they really are. We go back, what'd you like doing as a kid? Like, what are you particularly good at? so many people have all of these skills that they don't realize are their skills. They're so used and things come so easily to them, they don't realize that they're exceptional. So we help people identify what makes them unique and the things that they like. And then we encourage people to make decisions from that place. And so I personally kind of went through this life checklist, right? I got married. I have boy girl twins. I had a beautiful home in an adorable neighborhood that was safe, very successful business, all of these things. And I went through a really unexpected divorce and it all fell apart. And in the process of rebuilding my life after this, I really had to ask myself, after I hung on to that house so much, like I wanted to prove to people, like, I'm the boss lady and I don't need no man to keep this house and I can keep this beautiful house on my own. And I'm the one that wrote the money book. And like my ego was like in full charge of this until I was very overwhelmed. The basement flooded. It was so much to clean. It was all these different things. And I was struggling. And I finally had to go within myself and say, like, what do you really like? When were you the happiest? I loved all the little small apartments I had. I loved all the little, like, I loved being in a building. I thought back to my grad school apartment and the very first apartment I had when I got married. And I ended up like selling the house. I'm renting. I feel so much safer. Like I'm in a building that you have to go through like 3 different locked doors to get to my place. And I'm so much happier in this 1,000 square foot apartment than I was in the big, like Pinterest worthy house. But had I listened to all the voices around me and had I let my ego take charge, I would still be in that house with that huge mortgage payment, really struggling and just fighting to prove to who I thought were watching, which no one actually cared except for me. But now from this place, from identifying my values, I was able to like cut so many things out of my budget, right? Because there's no lawn guy, there's no snow, there's no this, that, it makes everything so much simpler. And I've really kind of gone back to, I don't know, like my roots. I kind of feel in the little apartment these days. So that's a long answer to your question, but I just wanted to relate it to something I went through as far as like you getting to the point you're supposed to get to and then realizing like it's not all it's cracked up to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I love how you talked about doing what your process of the layers of life, like the going from the inside out. I believe that our true transformation is from doing the inner work first.
That's right.
We look to the external a lot of the time for validation, for satisfaction, for happiness, and really those things come from us. And then we can, go out and we can get something validated by other people, but we don't need that external validation. That's where the true feeling good about yourself comes from, like being able to say, yes, so-and-so said this, or this happened to me. Those are great external validations, but I don't need that because I'm content and happy and I know myself and I believe in myself. And I don't need to like follow up, doing everything that everyone else is doing. And like you were saying, having the Pinterest worthy home, great, fabulous, but you weren't happy. And when you found true happiness in just the downsizing, and you might upsize again and find that true happiness again. But that I think really was, there was that healing that was going on at the same time.
It was like a cocooning moment,
Yeah. And so I think that's beautiful. I love that. So again, you have already mentioned you wear many hats. So you're a mom of twins, which is like, wow, as a feat in itself. You're an entrepreneur, you're a financial expert, and you're the co-founder of 5-Year You. So how do you prioritize self-care to stay grounded while balancing your roles and find alignment between family life and business goals without feeling pulled in a million directions?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think everybody has to do what works for them. And I try to walk the walk. And, we're really going through this divorce did like so many things for me. And again, one of the big things that it did is it redirected a ton of energy back to myself. And it really kind of made me look at my habits, what I ate, how I did things, my mood, my mental health, all of these things. And one of the big things that I discovered is that I really need sleep. I think I need more sleep than the average person. And I didn't quite realize it, right? You got little kids, they grow up, it's like my kids are 10. I still wake up sometimes and find one of them in my bed, foot in my face, whatever. But that is my number one self-care thing. And I think moms in particular have a really hard time with that. Like I can notice if I don't get enough sleep, I have much more intrusive thoughts. I'm much more prone to anger. I'm much more prone to snap at my kids. My work is not as good. And, bubble bath and all those things are great, but that has been like my number one priority the last 2 years. And I have all kinds of little hacks and stuff for it, but that's my self-care, the sleep.
Yeah. Yeah. That is important. I think a lot of people, you hear that saying, I'll sleep when I'm dead. And it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know where that comes from. However, I feel like people are just in such a manic state a lot of the time. It's like more and more and more. I have to do more. I have
Yes.
to do more, right? And so sleep a lot of the time too is like, oh, well, I only need a couple hours sleep, or maybe it's not so much that I need, I just don't have time for sleep because I
Yeah.
have so many things going on. I love that you prioritize sleep because that affects our energy levels.
Yeah.
We don't get enough rest. It
Yeah.
affects our energy. And you have 2 young children, still young.
Yeah.
They're not, adults yet. So
No.
it's probably a whole different way of, when they were young and toddlers and now
Yeah.
they're getting into their teens.
Yeah.
And that's a whole other thing that
whole
you're
other
having to
ballgame.
deal with, right? So I love that you shared that because
Yeah.
I want women to, especially moms, not to feel guilty
Right.
about getting the right amount of sleep because that shows their kids how important rest is.
Yeah.
I think that's when if they can start looking at it, oh, what I'm doing is going to mirror, so I'm modeling something for my children. So if
That's
they
right.
see me like manic all the time and I'm not getting the sleep, they're going to
Right.
mirror that thinking that's just the way life is. But if I can
Right.
show them, oh no, sleep is important. I need to get enough sleep. So
Yeah.
I'm not only good for you, but I'm good for me. And
Right.
that's important. You're teaching them that as well. So I love that.
Thank
Yeah. So you've got a book. I love that.
Mhm.
Mom's Got Money. It's all about empowering millennial moms to manage money with confidence. So what are some key takeaways or practical steps from the book that you think are essential for moms looking to improve their financial health?
Yeah, I mean, the big lesson in the book is to encourage moms to take a seat at the proverbial table, their kitchen tables, right? And moms control 85% of the purchasing decisions in their households. We have a significant amount of power in terms of like what comes into the home, what decisions to be made, what brand of like football cleats or whatever am I going to get my kid? Like we make hundreds of micro decisions every month that affect our overall wealth, the amount of money we can invest, the amount of debt we can pay off, all of those different things. And yet, so many women think that investing is too challenging or like that's something maybe they let their partners take care of. And so, a big part of the book is money mindset and saying, like, seriously, you are a mom. There's nothing on this earth that's going to be harder than what you've done in that process. There's nothing a finance bro can do to like match up to all the effort you have put into being a parent and a mother. And so as long as you are committed to understanding it, there are so many different podcasts, Instagram accounts, et cetera, that really break down a lot of these money topics in a way that's easily understood. So my first tip is surround yourself with people who are interested in money and finance and interested in building wealth. Unfollow people on Instagram who are showing you their Amazon hauls, their Abercrombie hauls, their whatever hauls. Unfollow everybody who is making you feel as though your life isn't good enough and start following women who are really building lives for themselves, because the more you understand money and the more of it you have, the more independence that you have and control you have over your life and what you can do for your kids. And so there are money lessons, there's budgeting lessons, there's a chapter on how to have a budget meeting, a chapter on like what a credit score is, how to even look up your credit score and like how to improve it. And there's all these very practical personal finance 101 chapters. But the biggest takeaway is that money is simple. You can absolutely do it.
Yeah. I think for me, when I was growing up, I'm not a mom. So I've been married now almost 29 years, which is really hard to believe.
Wow.
This episode will air just before my 29th anniversary. And we decided not to have children. And our lifestyle just took us all over. We decided, no, I like the way it is. And the reason was because we had a real conversation that was based around if we have children, we can't have this particular type of lifestyle that we've talked about because it's not fair. I know what it's like I knew when I was growing up, I didn't like all the moving around. Now, I didn't come from a military background. It was not because of that, but we moved a lot. And so I missed out on some secure friendships from a young age. So I knew that I didn't want to do that to my children. So we had this really good conversation around that. And we both decided together, no, this is good. We're good the way we are, and that's okay. We have lots of nieces and nephews on both sides of our families.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. I feel
covered.
Being the cool auntie is an excellent spot to be in for sure. As evidenced by your location today and my location today.
Oh, well, definitely I want to come and check out where you are. But I do. But the reason why I say that is because one of the things I just felt it was so important for me to really have that conversation with my husband to realize, how do we have children in a way that if we're going to support this lifestyle, is it going to be fair to do it this way? Are we going to be able to do it? And is it, will we miss if we don't? The only time I really think I missed, and we decided not to, but the only time I think I really missed not having children was the moment when I became non-childbearing, because I'd gone through menopause and it was like, oh, now it's real. I can't have children, but,
it's valid. Yeah.
Yeah. But, I feel good overall. I feel that it's a good thing that I was able to at least make that decision. But I really commend moms because I know that it's a hard job. I know my mom was a single mom raising, her children, 3 young kids in the home, an older son that was kind of in and out. She really had a lot of hardships and I watched that. A lot of it was around money. So I had to really learn about how to look at money as not the evil thing, like the thing that's meant to punish, that's not meant there for people like us who grew up poor and who grew up in social housing. I talk a lot about that because I grew up in social housing and not having a lot of the things that my friends did. And I had to unpack all of that because none of that's true. It just that was my life circumstance. It didn't mean that I was any less than they were. And it takes a lot to be able to go through that and really recognize it. But having books like yours out there, maybe there is a mom out there who went through the same experiences I did and doesn't understand doesn't have any literacy around finances. And maybe they need to be educated or needs to be supported. Like you make decisions most of the time. Here, let me empower you because you're already doing it. And here are some tools to help you to manage it better. So I love that.
Thank you.
And I just think it's incredible. And it's really one of the reasons why I wanted to have you because I know, like I said, you and I, we both hit it off when we first had our first conversation. And I really felt like this connection that you really want to help women and helping women is helping families. So it's not just
100%.
Not just women are being supported. The families are being supported. So I love that. So with 5-Year You, you've set that high goal to help 1 million people transform over the next 5 years. So what are some of the unique approaches or tools that you're incorporating to make this vision a reality for such a large audience?
Yeah, well, I think that this is really the first business that we have invested in, meaning that so many projects we've started have been, learning different skills, learning how to edit videos on our own, buying our own equipment. This is the very first time we're like, okay, we are frugal people, but we are going to hire a producer. We are going to invest in a business accelerator. And we've really kind of put our heart and our money into the beginning of this so that we really can have as big of a reach as we can. Of course, like 10 years of experience in business before that is really helping us. It's a lot easier this go round. At least we know some of the components. But big thing that we're doing is my partner and I have been on about 60 podcasts this year promoting our podcast, which does take a lot of energy, but is really fun. And of course, starting a newsletter and doing all of these different things. And we're just trying to live the messages that we teach. We say on the podcast all the time, like, we are not sharing these ideas or giving advice from this high up place. Like, you're seeing us in real time working through these different things. And, I told you about like exploring the soul layer and things like that, but we go to the next layer too, which is like your family, your friends. And we recorded an episode sort of about what happens as you grow and how sometimes people you've known your whole life might fall away. But that's okay because it makes room for new people that are at your vibration. And so the idea is to present personal growth not as this like woo-woo type of business where everyone's like toxic positivity, you have to be happy all the time, but rather to show it in real time. Like sometimes growth is painful, but it's always worth it. Sometimes growth will challenge you in ways you didn't expect. It will change your relationships. You might realize someone you've been with for a long time, it doesn't serve you anymore. There are a lot of different challenging lessons to learn along the way. And so I like to think that we are carving out a bit of a unique niche in that we're constantly talking about mental health and different things that we're doing and therapy and this and that. And we're not like, now I love Tony Robbins, but we're not like the Tony Robbins, like fully formed, perfect picture of health and all these different things talking to thousands. We're like, we're with you guys. We might be like maybe a year ahead on the journey, but like this is how it's going. So
Yeah, no, it's important. And I love how you brought in toxic positivity. It's not about being positive all the time. You
no,
have to feel your emotions. Otherwise,
absolutely.
if you try to push them down, they're going to come back at the wrong time.
They will arrive.
They will come. And so it's just better. To me, it's like pushing, it's like going through it. It's not going around it. It's not trying to go over or under it. It's just go through it, allow yourself to feel the feelings and then be able to move through that. And I love how you were saying too about building a community of people in your life who are on the journey that you want to be on. So if someone is, you want to be financially secure, like start surrounding yourself with podcasts that talk about reading books, getting educated on that so that you have everything that you need at your fingertips so that you are not feeling like, oh, well, I'm taking the financial advice from someone I know who's broke all the time.
Yeah,
and I'm not
exactly.
saying there's no shame there. It's just,
No.
it's if you want to better yourself, and that can also help you to bring them along with you, the people
That's right.
that you might have been dependent upon for that type of advice. So I love that. As we wrap up, what I wanted to ask you is like one final piece of advice you could share with our listeners for people who maybe are looking to break free from maybe even like financial shame so they can build healthy confidence, relationships with money, and working towards being their best selves, both personally and financially, so that they can, get to those goals that they are going after.
Yeah, my big piece of advice, it might seem a little broad, but it's to build that self-awareness around your money. And what I mean by that is I could easily sit here and explain how to make a budget or like what an index fund is. But the truth is that all of us have relationships with money that come from how we were raised, how we saw our parents interact with money, different experiences we've had. And we all have different models of how people use money, both positive and negative. And so for me, what I tell people is the very first thing to do is build the self-awareness. And even for like a month or two, start to just notice what you do with your money. Start to notice that what do you do after you had a really bad day at work? Do you go right to the mall? do you get home and just order, tons of food or whatever? Because you'll start to pick up on patterns like, oh, I've always thought I had a spending problem, but I never knew why. And then you'll realize, like, I think my spending problem is connected to this emotion that I have when this happens. Or maybe like every time you talk to your toxic mom, you have to like binge Real Housewives or whatever. And then all you want is a Louis Vuitton bag because you've been binging Real Housewives, And it's starting to notice like what emotions come up around money, what thoughts come in around money. When your kids ask for something, is your first thing to say, we can't afford that? Or, I've had to change a lot of ways that I say thanks to my kid. And one of the things I have is a wish list on the fridge. So if they ask for something I definitely do not want to buy that month, I'm just like, oh, I love that idea. Put it on the wish list. Because most of the time kids, like, they want stuff every day, right? And so I used to be like, let me try to figure out how to get it for you. And now I'm like, put it on the wish list, which is a lot of a nicer thing to say and to teach than we can't afford that. Stop asking for stuff, right? Because we want our kids to know that you can have things, just might take some time, might take some saving, whatever. And so I know have awareness is a very broad piece of advice, but noticing the emotions connected to your money, how you think and talk about money will go a long way to establishing your baseline. And from there, you'll notice which areas you can work on.
I love that. And in fact, it really spoke to me because that's how I was like years ago before I got married. And it was retail therapy. I'd be upset and I'd go to the mall and spend money on things that I would have. I remember having, like a couple hundred pairs of shoes in my closet.
Yeah.
A lot of them never worn. Maybe if any were worn once. I always gravitated to the same pairs like all the time. And so we would even have clothes in the closet with the tag on it still. So it's like learning to have that self-awareness, like what's your relationship with money is really important. And it could come back to what you saw growing up, like maybe you grew up seeing someone struggle in your house. And so now you just equate money as struggle. So it's like, and how do you relate that to when something happens and maybe you go out and you binge shop, like you were saying, right. or on those shopping channels, or now because we have access to all now the internet, Amazon, like having packages coming all the time. So it's, it's really important. I love what you shared today. Thank you so much for spending time.
Leslie.
Yeah, I love what you shared, your experience, your expertise on personal growth, financial empowerment, your passion for helping women live their best lives. This is really inspiring to me. And I'm really grateful to have had this conversation with you. And what I love is to be able to share your contact information in the show notes so our listeners can connect with you directly, learn more about 5-Year You and the impactful work you're doing, perhaps to have you on their podcast, to have you speak, or maybe even to work with you. So thanks again for joining me today.
Thank you for inviting me. Have a good one.
And to our listeners, I hope today's conversation has sparked something inside you to take even the smallest steps toward the life you envision. Remember, real change doesn't happen overnight, but with each choice and every step that you take, you're building the foundation for a future filled with purpose, fulfillment, and confidence. Embrace the journey, knowing that the life you dream of is within your reach. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep believing, and keep designing your extraordinary life one day at a time. Thank you for joining me on Her Extraordinary Life by Design. I hope you've been inspired and empowered by the incredible stories shared on this show. If you enjoyed this episode and the conversations we've had, I would greatly appreciate if you could take a moment to leave a review. Your feedback and support mean the world to me, and it will help others discover the podcast and join our empowering community. Remember to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Together, we can continue to learn from these amazing women, uncover their extraordinary journeys, and be motivated to create our own lives by design. Thank you again for tuning in. Until next time, stay empowered and keep shaping your extraordinary life one day at a time.
Ever thought about starting your own podcast?
Do you have a business or a message you want to share with the world?
Well, now it's easier than ever with Electrocast. Hi, I'm Mark Netter.
And I'm Peter Rafelson. We're the founders of Electrocast Media.
Whether you want to start a new podcast or already have one, join Electrocast to grow your audience, monetize your content, and build your community.
With our simple sign-up, you get free promotion, world-class analytics, premium ads, and personal support.
Go to electrocast.com and join our community today.
Electricast. Transform your influence.
Electricast.
For those of you who dream of a world where music and podcasts live together in perfect harmony, now, for the first time, Electricast gives you a magical compilation, Pod Till You Drop, Volume 1, where we give you the best in tunes and the best in podcasts. Feast your ears and hear the culture. Available now wherever you listen to music.